Hello, class. My name is Stephanie Shigori. Today I will be presenting the serious impact of mental illness, stigma. So I will be doing a PowerPoint and speaking over it. The serious impact of mental illness and stigma. I'll be asking you guys a couple of questions, so guess the answer. What is mental illness? Mental illness, defined by the Mayo Clinic, to a wide range of mental health conditions, disorders that affect your mood, thinking, and behavior. The National Alliance on Mental Illness defines a mental illness as a condition that impacts a person's thinking, feeling, or mood. This impact may affect his or her ability to relate to others and function on a daily basis. With mental illnesses, each person will have a different experience, even if they have the same diagnosis. Some examples of mental illness include depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, eating disorder, addictive behavior, and bipolar. So I am going to ask you guys a couple more questions. Does anyone know the population of the world? And if you don't feel bad, because I didn't. The population of the world is around 7 billion people. Now, can anyone guess what the population of the United States of America? Again, I didn't know this. I blame it on being Jamaican. The population is around 318.9 million people. Now, can anyone guess how many people in the world suffer from a mental illness? Currently, around 10% of the total world's population, or roughly 650 million people, live with a disability. Now, try and guess what the population of people living with a disability in America. It's roughly 39,892,960 of which individuals with disabilities live, a prevalence rate of 12.7% of our whole population. In the Disability Community Survey for 2014, they stated that the projected population of people with disabilities in 2030 will be 43,572,992 individuals. That's a projected 15.8% increase from 2013. I put this chart up because in the World Health Organization, they did a research showing the mental illness is ranked as the biggest health problem in America. The biggest health problem. It's over cancer, sense organs, nervous system. It's the largest ranked health problem in North America. This is just a question I would like to ask because it brought up a lot of feelings after doing this research. Individuals with disabilities or mental illnesses is one of the largest minority groups in the United States. However, there's no discussion about this in history classes or educational programs. I wonder why. To better understand this, I looked up a brief history lesson of disabilities in our community, in the world. In 1801, Education for Mental Disabled, Jean-Marc Gaspar Ettard established the principles and methods which are actually used today in the education of the mental disabled. In 1918, funding of rehabs. As a result of the large number of World War II vets returning with disabilities, Congress passed the first major rehab program for soldiers. In 1920, a bill funded vocational rehabs, which guaranteed federal money for job counseling and vocational training for disabled in the general public. In 1939, Nazis program kills thousands. At the onset of the World War II, Adolf Hitler ordered a widespread mercy kill. of the mental sick and disabled. The program was created to eliminate life unworthy of life. Between 75,000 to 250,000 people with intellectual or physical disabilities were killed from 1939 to 1941. It wasn't until 1983 that Americans with Disabilities for Access Public Transportation, which is also known as ADAPT, began its national campaign for lifts on buses and access to public transportation. Up till 1983, there was not accessible public transportation for people with disabilities. It wasn't until 1990 that the ADA law was signed into law by President George H.W. Bush. 2004 was the first Disability Pride Parade in Chicago. This Pride Parade was designed to change the way people think about and define disabilities, to break down and end the internalized shame among people with disabilities, and promote the belief in society that disabilities is a natural and beautiful part of life. It wasn't until 2004. People with disabilities face many barriers in the world today, such as stigma and discrimination, lack of adequate healthcare and rehab services, education, income support, employment, and lack of appropriate housing. This was actually the outline of my presentation, but after all the research, I realized that it would take around 2 hours to do. So I decided to focus on the number one barrier, which is stigma. Stigma is the impact of mental illness journal defines stigma as a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. Stigma is a set of negative and often unfair beliefs that a society or a group of people have about something. Goffman defines stigma as an attribute that is deeply discrediting, which reduces its barriers from a whole unusual person to a tainted and discounted one. Now, again, before this project, I didn't realize the history of the word stigma and the very negative meanings behind it in early Greek and Roman to the modern day use. So just a brief history. In the early Greek and Roman society, the word stigma was used to describe the marked, tattooed, or burnt into the flesh of criminals or slaves, a visible testament to their marginal social status or deviance. In medieval Europe, additional stigma marks included clipped ears and visible brands and were often intended to warn members of the general public to keep their distance. By the 18th century, the use of the word stigma was extended to signs of disease or physical degeneration. In the modern day use, stigma does not refer to inherent moral flaws or practical individuals or group, but rather to the social culture process by which members of marginalized groups are labeled by others as abnormal, shameful, or otherwise undesirable. These are two quotes that I found very interesting. The first was, "Stigma robs people labeled ill of their rights to equal opportunity with respect to jobs, housing, healthcare, relationships, faith-based communities, friends, overall communities, and legal protection." Goffman also quoted that stigmatized attributions drives a wedge between the virtual with social identities, which is the identity based primarily on stereotype about particular characteristics such as skin color or physical impairment, and their actual social identities, who they are in fact. Stigma can be broken down into 4 major types: public stigma, self-stigma, label avoidance, and structural stigma. Public stigma. Public stigma occurs when the general public endorses stereotypes about disease and disabilities and then discriminates against them. Public stigma is the most widely studied of all the 4 stigma types. Public stigma has been shown to lead to discrimination against individuals with a variety of disabilities and disorders.